Hi everyone, Colin Davis here, ShadowTechAlchemy.com, SolutioPodcast.com, MelissaMariMovie.com. Today is the February 10th Solutio broadcast, and today I'm going to be sharing with you what I'm tentatively calling the 8-quadrant model, because it is the ShadowTech system that Melissa Mari and I worked with for 12 years, put together, downloaded, channeled, manifested, synthesized for 12 years. And then I put a segment of that into Ken Wilber's 4-quadrant model in the last book, the 2024 book, Transforming Darkness. And this took many years for me to feel comfortable even doing that. But I did that, and then now what I've done is I've given you a second 4 quadrants map where we talk about actually integrating this material. So we use the 4 quadrants model to look at the shadow across 4 domains of perspective: mind, body, culture, and society. And then I offer our solution. And of course, this is oriented towards us, the psychospiritual alchemists, the individuators, the people who have the wherewithal, the inclination to work on ourselves, to mature ourselves inwardly. So this is definitely for those kinds of people. But I'm hoping that more people will be able to get the chance to see what this is and how this works, and pull inner alchemy out of the underground, out of the esoteric, and see it for the very practical life practice that it is. And so the second 4 quadrants is the Solutio side, where we talk, where I basically show you, if you have the shadow in these 4 quadrants, well then here's the integration process for each of those 4 quadrants. So you get a dark side and you get a light side. And yeah, this is a long time in the making. I think I probably really started with this over 20 years ago. Before I met Melissa, I was working with this 20 years ago, and I was trying to understand what is the nature of evil. And I was red-pilled, and I was researching 9/11 and all this kind of stuff, and I was reading books about psychopaths and different kinds of shadow ideologies and everything, and I was looking for the source of this. And it turns out this is something that Melissa was doing as well before we even met. And then, of course, as many people know, I had my own dark night of the soul at age 35, and I started reading Jungian psychology. I started with Robert Johnson's Owning Your Own Shadow, and so then I went on the individuation quest, and so in that area, we're still dealing with the same subject. What we call evil in the culture, in the society, has a correlation right back to the shadow of the personal psyche, of your psychology. And it's all one big system. And it took me a long time to really put it all together and figure out that it was all one big system and really clearly see it. And Wilber's 4 quadrants really helps with that. But yeah, so that's been the process. And then when Melissa and I got together, we had 12 years of doing all this research and this inner work together. And so we just crunched it even more, and we put out the book ShadowTech, and I got a copy of it here, but yeah, so we put out the book ShadowTech, and we were just totally, completely dedicated to this. Now, a lot of things that are in ShadowTech and that are in our system, so to speak, are not necessarily in this 8-quadrant model that I'm going to show to you in just a moment here. I've got it laid out with some graphics and everything to make it very clear and easy to follow. This doesn't doesn't handle everything that we worked with. Like there's concepts like the chapter in Shadow Tech, the 0 and the 1, which is just about the duality meta program, I think I might have called it, itself, of this simulation that we find ourselves in. And so there's a lot of other things that are in that book. The whole understanding of what we call the virus and the archetype of parasitism and all this stuff that was in the book that isn't necessarily right on the top in this 8 quadrants model, but that if you go into each of the quadrants deeply, all of this stuff is then pulled out. So tonight we're just going to look at it at the first level of it. We're not going to go deep into each of the 4 quadrants that deeply, or it's 8 quadrants, but it's going to be so that you can actually see this whole thing. You can see this meta map. So I'm going to put that on the screen. And then I'm just going to talk to you from behind this image, and we're going to go over this. So let me get ready to do this, and then after I give this presentation, then if folks are commenting, then I'll go to your comments. So let me pull this up. And then I got some other subjects to talk about if we need to. But we're just going to go with this. And let me now find our 8 quadrants, and then we'll get started here. Okay, so here's our Solutio 8 quadrants map. And what you're looking at on the left is the shadow side. And on the light side, or on the right side, you're talking about the light side. And so let me start over. Let's start over with that, because this is, how do we do this? Okay. All right, here we are. This is the Solutio 8 quadrants model. That's what I'm calling it right now. And on the left side of your screen, you'll see the 4 quadrants of the shadow, and this is a version of what was in the last book, Transforming Darkness. And then on the right side, this is the solution side, the Solutio side. This is what we do about the problem of the shadow in its how we deal with each of the 4 quadrants of shadow manifestation in our reality. How do we engage in life practice that mitigates the shadow, that integrates the shadow across all 4 quadrants? And I'll explain what the quadrants are and everything as we go on. So first thing to say about this is that this comes from Ken Wilber. This, or let's just say the 4 quadrants heuristic or tool, comes from Ken Wilber, and that's integral theory. And what Ken discovered is that there's 4 main ways that people perceive of any subject. And that is first person, second person, third person, or third person plural, or I, we, it, and its. And you can see that right there in the center of the left side of the image there. So that shows you right there that this is integral theory, that we're putting this through that tool. And so that I, we, it, its, when you're talking about the human being, because you can put anything into this tool that you want to. You can put any subject into this tool, and it'll give you a breakout of all 4 perspectives, and so that you have a holistic view of any subject. But in this case, we're talking about the human consciousness, right? And so, or the human being itself. And so on the upper left-hand quadrant, you have mind or psyche. The upper right-hand quadrant, you have the body, the physical vehicle, the human vehicle, and its physical behavior. In the lower left-hand quadrant, you have the we quadrant. This is where we share the contents of mind in what we call culture. So this is your ethics, this is your religion, these are your ideologies, This is your art, your music, your literature, your philosophy, everything that we call culture, media. This is an informational domain, okay? And then the upper right-hand quadrant, you have the physical body, and did I say that already? Mind, body, culture, and system or civilization. And I'll get better at giving this presentation as I do it multiple times, because I think I'm going to keep coming back to this over and over again, because a great deal of what I always talk about is inside of this. So the lower right-hand quadrant is civilization itself, society, civilization, or what I'm calling the system here. So this is how human beings actually put together infrastructure so that they can have commerce and they can have institutions and economics and schools and highways and everything. That's the actual system that we put together collectively. And the shadow side of that I'm calling the matrix or deep state here. So if you take this 4-quadrant model here, and if you look at that, and our subject for today is the shadow, you will see that covers all the ways in which the shadow or the destructive side of human consciousness manifests in the world. It manifests through the personal psyche. This is your psychopathology. This is your neuroses. This is all your repression. This is all your projection. This is all your inner conflict. This is your mental illness. This is everything that the shadow does in the personal psyche, right? The culture, all of the informational, cultural evil, all of the fascism and the Nazism, or the whatever version of ism you have. The people on the left have their version of what evil is, and people on the right have their version of what evil is. Everybody has some ism that they say is evil. And all of just the propaganda and all of this cultural evil, I'm just going back over it again for a second time. The body, how it manifests disease, how syndromes, symptoms, illnesses, cancer, all this body pathology, plus all your just what they call behavioral pathology, all of the ways in which we act out, right? That covers the whole body quadrant. And then the matrix, the deep state, all the corruption and all the ways in which the system is rigged, right? And all that right there, that covers the whole thing. That truly covers the whole, because this model, this Ken Wilber 4-quadrant model, is truly holistic. It really does cover everything. This great insight of his, of these 4 perspectives, first person, second person, third person, and third person plural, this really covers the bases. Now, there is actually more depth to it. You can go the inside of the 4 quadrants, the outside of the 4 quadrants, and you can go to another level of depth that's unnecessary for us here. But that really covers it. And one of the coolest things about this is that when you look at anything through this kind of system, you realize that you're not looking at four coincidentally related phenomenon. You're looking at one phenomenon through 4 lenses. This is all one thing. Carl Jung's shadow of the psyche and all of the syndromes and symptoms and all the huge list of diseases and everything that they have now, that's together. That's one thing. The cultural evil, all of the toxic ideologies and the propaganda and everything in the media that's all on the side of evil, that's all part of this system. And the way the structure is built and everything, it's all the shadow. And so now, if we go to the very center of the image on the left-hand side, it says dragon there. What's that? And what's that light? Well, dragon is is the Jungian psychologist Robert Moore's term that he uses. And this is our libido energy. This is our psychic energy. This is our God energy that's coming through every one of us. This is what's powering us, right? And this is our creativity. It's our life force. Libido is not just sexuality, like Freud called it. It is definitely sexuality. That's a huge part of it. But it's your creativity, it's your life force, it's your aggression, it's all of your psychic energy, it's your grandiosity. And Robert Moore talks a lot about grandiosity. And the whole idea here is that this energy is coming through us. The shadow is an imbalance. There's kind of two related definitions of the shadow, and I can give you here. And in Robert Moore's understanding, it is an imbalance of psychic energy, of libido energy that's coursing through us, archetypal energy in Jungian terms. And this is moving through us, and it's high voltage energy, and it has to be structured through our psychology, through our psychophysiology. It has to be structured. And then when it moves into the world, there has to be ethics, there has to be morality, there has to be cultural guidelines so that this energy can be properly channeled and we don't blow each other up. And so, for example, what we see right now, and this is the eternal problem of humanity, is that we are constantly mismanaging our libido energy, our grandiosity, our psychic energy. And then when you're traumatized, when you're hurt, when you're traumatized, when you're neglected or abused or whatever it is, to whatever degree, then the psyche dissociates, and then you have an improper channeling of this energy, and then it's squiggling around and going through different complexes and finding its way out one way or another. If you look at the IFS system, internal family systems, that will give you a model kind of how this imbalanced energy ends up creating these interlocking complexes that end up channeling the energy into a pathological direction. And so the whole thing with inner work and with healing yourself and growing up and maturing, or what Jung called individuation, the whole thing is about getting this dragon energy to move through you so that you can be a creative person, so that you can channel your daimon, your vocation, your reason for being here, but not blow yourself up or blow up your relationships or blow up your jobs or literally blow up the world. And so that's why we're interested in this subject, is because this is the whole thing. And now technically the definition of the shadow in Jungian psychology is anything that can't make its way into the ego, into your conscious mind, because it's antithetical to your beliefs, to your persona, your view of yourself, or to what your society thinks that you ought to be. So we all have a lower nature. We all have reptilian functions and mammalian functions, and we have all kinds of libido energy, archetypal energy that comes from our ancient heritage that is antisocial and incompatible with organized society. And so when that can't make its way into consciousness because we don't know what to do with it, we naturally just turn it off. It's called cognitive dissonance, and we just shove it down into the unconscious. That we cannot deal with it. It's an unconscious process. We don't know that we're doing this, and we repress our lower nature, or anything that has to do with weaknesses and wounds, and anything that is narcissism and all kinds of things that are incompatible with our worldview and with our family and community and society as a whole. Anything that's oppositional to the persona or superego, in depth psychological terms, gets repressed into the shadow. And then it gets projected out. And when you go down to the cultural quadrant, the lower left-hand quadrant, this is the structuring that actually helps people dump their shadow energy into the world. This is where you pick up a toxic ideology. This is where you choose sides on politics, right? Is that so that now you can go to war with the other side, and you can play this game of dichotomous splitting, as I heard Sam Vaknin call it, which is just scapegoating or demonization. And then you can demonize the other side. You can project your shadow onto them, and they can become the enemy. And then you can displace your rage, your aggression, and all of that into the world. And so you use the cultural quadrant as an ethical or cultural guideline or script in order to actually move the shadow of the psyche out. And then to the degree that the shadow can't come out, upper right-hand quadrant, body quadrant, we're still on the left side of the image here, upper right-hand quadrant, body quadrant, to the degree that energy can't come out, because we can't just be running around, just dumping all of this aggression and sexuality and grandiosity onto the world everywhere. So to the degree we can't channel it and we can't manage it on our own because we don't have the tools for it, then it turns in on itself and it becomes disease. It becomes symptoms. It becomes syndromes. It becomes pathological behavior, right? So then, and it becomes addictions, right? And it becomes, or it turns, or the system just shuts down so that the energy won't move, so that it won't destroy you or the world, and it becomes depression, right? Or it becomes anxiety because it's literally rattling you, okay? So this is all libido energy. This is all shadow energy. And then in the lower right-hand quadrant, the system quadrant, this is where we mostly unconsciously, or we let psychopaths do these things for us, and we wire up the system, and whoever are the the most prominent or powerful monkeys, they wire the system for their own benefit, and they basically steal the resources for themselves, or use the system to cover up their own shadow behavior, and then slam the book on us. And so this is just pure monkey games. It's just pure baboon primal games, and so it's very, very shadowy. It's power games. It's all about power. So that's another way of looking at some of this shadow energy is it's power and power drives. Adlerian psychology. So this is all one thing, and everyone's busy either blaming some other group for being the bad guy, for being the evil one, right? Or blaming some ideology or whatever, or blaming the system and blaming the matrix and all of that, and they're becoming a red-pilled culture warrior, which has its place, but you don't want to stay there. And so everybody's busy with all this blaming and projecting, and meanwhile they're missing the point. They're missing the giant elephant in the middle of the living room, right? That's the dragon energy, that's the libido energy that is not being channeled properly because we're wounded, or because our ethical system is broken down, or it just doesn't fit our postmodern society anymore, and we don't have anything to structure us anymore. We don't believe, a great deal of the portion just does not believe that they're going to go to hell if they sin. And so that's all broken down. So the structures that were used to contain and like more in the Jungians, they talk, or Mircea Eliade, they talk about initiations, primitive societies using initiation rites and everything to really imprint upon people, especially young men, the necessity of serving the community and not serving your grandiose ego. And in our current day, that's all cracked up. It's all broken down. And so now we need something like this. Now, this is my version. You can go to the great Jungians. You can go to Carl Jung, and you can go to the great Jungians, and they will tell you all the same thing. This is just, me and Melissa's version of that. And plus, with some red pill, so to speak, awareness that they didn't have. So there we go. That's the issue. That's the elephant in their living room. That's the dragon. That's the shadow, as it manifests in our reality. So now, what do you do about this situation? Well, in the Jungians that all this work comes out of that tradition, they would point you to the individuation process. They would point you to the upper left-hand quadrant. Now let's go to the right side of the image here, onto the Homo bilancia side, the Solutio side. And let's go to the upper left-hand quadrant of that side. And this is where the Jungians would point you. And this is where you need to go first, absolutely. So that they would say, get involved in individuation, get involved in integrating your own shadow, become shadow aware within your own psychology, right? Increase your mindfulness, your self-awareness of your own complexes, of your own shadow material, start integrating that material, right? Just through becoming conscious of it, making art out of it, journaling it, talking about it, using it in therapy, really just making it conscious, putting a spotlight on it, a flashlight on it, right? Putting the light on your shadow material, bringing into consciousness, right? And then all of your wounded stuff, and all your unconscious stories around your woundedness, and you start pulling it all up, and you relate it to archetypal motifs, relate it to mythical motifs, and you start getting a grip, a cognitive and also emotional grip on your shadow material. So that's the individuation process. That's what alchemy is. Working with the prima materia, the first matter, the shadow, right? That's the first matter to be dealt with here. And so that was their solution, and that is the proper thing to do. But when you put this into the 4-quadrant model, you realize that there are 4. You can actually go at this from an even higher level perspective, from a more holistic perspective, and so you can address more than just one thing. You don't just have to individuate and then just wait for the society to naturally work it out, which is what will happen, but you can actually target these other areas at the same time and have a much more holistic way of working with it. And I think it is it's just a better way to do it. It's more advanced. It's the 21st century version. So go down to the lower left-hand quadrant where we have culture, the we quadrant. So this is our ethics, this is our morality, this is our attitudes, our cultural values, right? And so down in this quadrant, we, on the Solutio side, on the solution side, we're basically doing what, I do have to say that there was one Jungian that, well, there's a lot of Jungians that go into the domain of ethics. Definitely. Robert Moore goes all into ethics, and a lot of other Jungians go into ethics too. But there was one Jungian, Erich Neumann, who wrote the book Depth Psychology and a New Ethic in 1949, right after World War II. And he said, what we need is we need people to be individuating, integrating their shadows, but we need to have a shadow-aware mindset. And as we deal with each other, and as we go into the world, and with our behavior and everything that we would call our ethics, we have to have shadow awareness integrated into that, right? And so if you just look at the domain of culture right now, if you just turn on social media or look at what's coming out of academia or what's coming out of the churches or whatever, you'll realize they don't have shadow-aware ethics. They don't know what the shadow of the psyche is. They don't know this system for sure, but they don't even know the basic Jungian system that's been around for 100 years, which is really the most advanced thing that we really even have in this domain for this kind of a thing. And they don't even know about it. They don't know that they're projecting. They don't know that they're displacing and projecting. They don't know anything about that. So what Neumann was saying is we need to start bringing our understanding of how the shadow works and how projection works and suppression and repression and how all this works, and we need to bring this into our culture and into our ethics. And so that could only work if people actually had a basic understanding of the Jungian vision, of the Jungian way, the Jungian discovery, which I think is kind of like Einstein's discovery of relativity. It's that big, it's that huge. People will say that his greatest discovery is the recognition of the collective unconscious. I say yes, but it's the whole thing. It's his whole thing. It's the whole system. And the shadow is a huge part of it. And, maybe even more important than the other stuff. So we have to have, so that understanding, even if it gets updated, has to be brought into our culture, and people need to start talking along those lines. So I do that myself. All this cultural junk, all this cultural shadow material is being passed around on social media and the news and everything. And when I get on social media, I approach this. I look at these situations and I bring psychological awareness to these news stories. It's usually on Twitter or Facebook or something, and I will make comments that look at the issue through a Jungian lens, through a shadow-aware lens. And so that's shadow-aware ethics. And then also it's the duty, because ethics are a duty. And it's the duty of you to work with your shadow and to help other people do it, and to help educate other people, and to let this become a cultural, let this become a function of culture that spreads and gets integrated into our society, into our consciousness. And so that's the duty aspect of it. So we have a duty to individuate, to integrate our shadow material, and then to point others into that direction. So that's the ethical aspect, the solution to this. Starts with the upper left-hand quadrant, and then it goes to these other quadrants. The upper right-hand quadrant, the body quadrant, where I have it written healthy body and behavior, this is where our society knows this more. We know this out of any of these things that are talked about here. We know this one. This one we've known for a while. You got to take care of your body. You got to eat clean, and you got to exercise, and then behavior is part of Ken Wilber's understanding of this quadrant. But the to go there makes it a little more complicated. But basically, this is just the body quadrant. And this is just eating super good and handling your nutrition, handling your food intake, and just super clean, super pure intake, and then exercise in whatever way that works for you. Some people have very physical jobs. They don't really need to go to the gym or run or ride bikes or do anything or hiking or anything like that because they're already so physical and they work outside. So those people they have that handled. But a lot of people in our modern society are sitting down a lot, and we're living very busy, hectic lifestyles, and so we're not getting that much exercise, and that's killing us. We're falling apart because of that. So the body quadrant is just about what most of us already knew, even though a lot of people just neglect that. And this is where, this is your responsibility to take care of yourself physically and to take that very, very seriously. And so that's that quadrant. The lower right-hand quadrant, the last quadrant that we're going to talk about here really, is I'm calling symbiotic footprint. And so this is the system quadrant, the civilization quadrant, or society quadrant. These are all different terms that point to the same thing, is the way we build a system. We build a civilization and all the institutions like I went over. So this is about where you actually plug in to, quote unquote, the system. You plug into society. You get a job. You get a car loan. You get a degree. All the things that you buy, and your ecological footprint, and your house, and all of this, every way in which you actually plug into society in a physical way. Your credit cards and your bank accounts and your commercial activity and all of that stuff, that's all the matrix side. That's the civilization side. And what you're doing in this quadrant is you're looking at every way in which you plug in to the world, to society, and you're looking at it and you're scanning it for parasitism. You're looking and saying, where am I involved in a contract or a relationship that is either predatory or parasitic to me, or where I am predatory or parasitic to others or to the society? And you're changing your contracts, you're changing your relationships with every way in which you plug into the world to make those more symbiotic, right? You're moving on the spectrum of symbiosis. You're moving away from predation and parasitism. You're moving towards mutualism. And so obviously things like debt is very parasitic, right? And so you don't want to be involved with those kind of contracts. You don't want, high interest credit cards or any credit cards, right? That's all scammy stuff. That's parasite stuff, right? And you don't want to work for a company that's parasitic on the society, right? So you got to look at that. You got to look at every way in which, or if you're running your own business, how are you ripping off your clients, or how are you subtly lying to your clients, or somehow using some kind of marketing strategy to get clients that's kind of shady. You have to go over all of that. And then obviously everything that the environmentalists talk about being conscious of your environmental footprint. I mean, here in the United States, especially here where I am now, I was in California for 30 years, but now I'm in Texas, and people just drive these ridiculous giant trucks everywhere, these 10 miles per gallon, just ridiculous trucks, one person driving these things to go get groceries and all of this, just an incredible waste, no consciousness of the wastefulness of that. or just the whole modern society, especially in the not even in the United States, just the whole look at India and China, just so much dumping and so much not taking responsibility for your environmental footprint. That's just everywhere. And then you look at the environmentalists as they have become, not how they started out, but as they've become, they're parasites now. They're just using that for control and creating markets and all this parasitic stuff. So in this quadrant, you're just really analyzing all relationships in the world that you have with the world, and you're cleaning those up, you're dumping those contracts, you're dumping those relationships if you can't get them to be healthy, and you're getting new contracts with other people, other businesses that are healthy. Where are you shopping? All of that. And now I have to say though, on all of these quadrants, our goal is for 100% clarity, 100% symbiosis. We're looking for to go all the way to the most balance, 100% balance. That's our goal, but we recognize that that's not even possible, right? Even on the side of shadow work, the upper left-hand quadrant, you can't integrate all your shadow material in one lifetime. So, but this is your goal. Your goal is what I have written right there in the middle of the image on the right, homo bilancia, balanced mankind. That's the goal. That's what's in mind. That's where you're going, and you're doing these things to the best of your ability, and you're not making excuses. Oh, well, this is as good as I can get. It's good, that's just the way it is, or that's the way I am. No, we're not doing that. We're just constantly evolving, continually trying to get cleaner and more symbiotic in every way, at the mind, body, culture, and society. So that's the solution side, is the right side, and it's life practice. It's awareness, it's self-awareness, it's ethics, it's life practice. It's conscious life. That's what this is highly conscious life. And in terms of integral theory, this is second tier lifestyle, second tier consciousness, second tier lifestyle. Now, it's said in integral theory and in spiral dynamics that only 5% or less of the world is at second tier. I think it's far less than 5%, far less. It's probably, how do you qualify if somebody's at second tier? But I think you have to go to, there's second tier people all over the world, but it's 1% or less is what it is, who can really actually who can really do something like this and take this seriously. Let me say that there's probably a little bit more than that of people who can actually think at second tier, but how many people will actually structure their life in a highly responsible second tier type of lifestyle? Well, that's what I'm talking about here. So that's that. Now on the another layer, another thing I do have on the right side of the image there is is Robert Moore's King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, or Royal Warrior, Magician, Lover, and so that I'm not going to go into today. I've gone into that in another broadcast, and I'll keep on talking about, and I would highly recommend people get into Robert Moore's work. And he's got a lot of lectures on YouTube, and people have uploaded them, and I have a big portion of his lecture library myself. But get his books, read his material, listen to him. This guy is for anybody that's on this path. He's a must. And so in his system, I won't go into all the details of it, but there's 4 primary archetypes that are being channeled through the human psyche. And what you're doing is you're analyzing each of these archetypes and you're bringing them into balance. And to the degree any of these 4 archetypes is imbalanced, it produces a shadow, right? And so that's another way of looking at the shadow, and it's very, very helpful. And so I put that on this model also because that is another system that is aligned with the archetype of 4, with the 4 quadrants, with the quaternio, as Jung called it, and there's more Jungian connotations that go with this. You know, the picture is the mandala, and it's a shape that's aligned with Carl Jung's archetypal self model and all these things. But Robert Moore really tried to take these 4 archetypes and show you how to balance these archetypes. And so I would say that system on top of what I'm talking about here really gives you, that's taking you into the upper left-hand quadrant, into the work of spiritual alchemy and shadow work. And then using those 4 quadrants is very, very helpful, and it aligns with this system. And this system is integrated with his work. And so I have that on the map as well. So now you have a basic presentation of this Solutio 8 quadrant system. And I'll probably keep pulling it up. I'm going to end up doing workshops on this, and I'll end up going up into each of the 8 quadrants much more deeply. And so, you know, and plus all the other stuff that's in me and Melissa's books and all of that. But that's that, and that I think is something that this is something new out of me, that Shadow Tech came out in 2015, and then Transforming Darkness came out in 2024, and that was like a recapitulation and a kind of a restatement of a portion of what was in Shadow Tech. But then I had one really new thing in there, which was the shadow in 4 quadrants. And now I've taken that and integrated it with this Solutio system. And so now we have just a truly holistic way of looking at the shadow and of doing shadow work across all quadrants of life and consciousness. So there you go. That's the first time I've presented that. Now, let's see here. We can have second tier thinking, but center of gravity in first tier. That's right. So anybody who wants to look into that, spiral dynamics or integral theory, and there's 6 different stages of psychosocial consciousness that most of the world is at. It's a really incredible realization to make that a primary reason why all these cultures fight with each other and don't understand each other is they're literally at different stages of consciousness, and that no one stage is better than another, but each of these stages of consciousness is a evolutionary answer to their time, their place, their environment, right? And to their stage of psychological and physiological evolution that we're all going through. And so second tier is after you get through the 6 levels that Ken and the Spiral Dynamics guys, I think originally it was Claire Graves, that they laid out. After you get past that, you get into what they call second tier, and then there's another, I think, like 4 stages or something, 2 to 4 stages that are mapped out there. And the first stage in second tier, which is the yellow stage in Spiral Dynamics, or is it called teal? I think it's called teal in integral theory. That stage is that's where this is coming from. Okay, so this is cognitively, this is coming from that stage. But what Mary is saying there is that you can be cognitively at a certain stage, but then you have these lower stages of consciousness that are triggering you. You're getting triggered by them, or they're getting triggered, and then your consciousness is ducking down to a lower stage. And that, in fact, nobody's really at second tier. Nobody's just sitting at second tier and not being influenced by these lower stages of consciousness. We're all being moved around by these lower stages of consciousness. And so, but what our aim is, when you get to second tier, what your aim is and your ability is you have an ability to be able to, in yourself and in other people, basically diagnose where different thoughts or beliefs or behaviors are coming from on this spiral of development. Where on the spiral is this behavior at? Where on the spiral is this relationship style at? Where on the spiral is this business model at? Right? Where on the spiral is this? I think I just went through 3 things there. So that's where on the spiral is this at? This what you're seeing in the world. And then you go, oh, okay, that's where they're at. That's where this is coming from. All right, I understand that. That makes sense within this context. That's fine. And then you allow it to be, or you can go into that other person, or you can go into that corporation's mindset, and you can talk to them through their mindset, because you can see it, you're above it. You can go into the Christian church or into a Muslim mosque, and you can listen to the sermon, and you can understand what they're saying, and you can go, okay, that makes sense from that stage of consciousness, and I see how that's applicable for you guys. That works for you guys. That's keeping your libido under control. That's keeping your society ethical and clean, and that's fine, and that's protecting your boundaries from predation and parasitism. That works for you. Okay, I understand that. Or you can go into woke world. You can go into progressive woke world, and you can go, oh, okay, I see where you're at. You're coming from this, this whole idea of inclusion and equity and all of this. And I can understand, how you're wearing your compassion on your sleeve, and that's guiding you and maybe misguiding you, but that's your value orientation. Okay, I can see that. I can understand that. Or I can go into the red level, gangster level, or Afghanistan Taliban level, or whatever, Ukrainian warlord level consciousness, and I can see how might makes right, and respect and all of that kind of stuff that happens at that level. I can understand that. I can get into that mindset, and I can allow that to be. But then, if I have to be, if I have to be involved in people or groups that are from different mindsets, then I can try to help bridge barriers and help them try to see each other, or at least tolerate each other. And then, so this type of second tier mindset is a problem solver, radical empathy. It's radical empathy, but second tier is, green level is the top of first tier. And that's radical empathy. Second tier is where radical empathy works sometimes, and straight up power works other times, and competition is parasitic sometimes, but competition is the best way forward other times, right? And a mythic religious mindset is boxing you in sometimes, but a religious mythic mindset is exactly what is needed for certain people, right? Alcoholics, they're going to AA, or wherever, going back to church to deal with their addictions, and they grew up with the church, and they resonate with Jesus. That's the best system for them. That works for them. Or for the Africans that are like been in this pagan animistic mindset. They go right over to Islam or to Christianity. It's like a natural next step for them. It's like, it's attractive. It works. It's the next thing on the spiral. It's the right thing for them. Giving them, progressive wokeism is the wrong thing for them, right? So, or expecting them to think it's second tier is not the right thing. So this is radical understanding that all mindsets, all belief systems have their place. They're context dependent, and they have their place, and they can all be shadowy, they can all be pathological, but they can all be healthy as well. And that there is no fundamentally pathological worldview, cultural worldview, because cultural worldviews are formed out of hundreds and thousands of years, and they're adapted to a certain people, to a certain terrain, and so they are appropriate in their fundamentals. Now they can become very, very toxic, like anything can, and that's what we're working with here on the shadow side of things. But a second tier understanding recognizes that there are many different ways of seeing the world, and that they, just because they are incompatible with each other often, doesn't mean that on their own that they're necessarily bad. So a second tier individual is somebody who's able to see that kind of holistic patterning of behavior, of culture, of mindsets, and allowing it to be, and trying to problem solve issues, and then also just operating from a more compassionate, because empathy is compassion. Let's see, how do I explain this? This is when I say compassion in this way, second tier compassion. Second tier compassion is allowance. It's like allowance of what is. I was telling my friend Stephanie yesterday I said, everything is actually perfect as it is. Because perfect, we think of the word perfect in English as something being very ordered and beautiful and precise. But perfect also means complete. And the world is actually complete as it is, with all the different mindsets that are going on, and all the shadow material that's going on, and all of that. The reason why all that stuff is happening is because we're all in transition, because it's one big organic ecosystem, and you have all kinds of dynamics that are all playing out at once all over the world, and it's perfect. It's the way it's supposed to be. It really is. And when you can get into second tier, you can see how, even though we have a tendency to want to point at true suffering and true evil and say that can't possibly be part of a perfect world. That can't possibly be part of it. And this is where you come in and you say, to the degree I can mitigate evil, to the degree I can bring balance to the world, to some relationship, to the degree I can do that, that's my duty to do that. And to the degree I can't do that, that is, I allow that, because the cosmos, the world, the universe is in evolution, and it's moving, and this is how it moves, and this is what it looks like. And the thing about, and people will say, well, yeah, but there's people dying over there, there's people getting abducted, and there's torture, and there's all this horrible, evil stuff going on. And that's true. But people are always dying, people are always suffering, even without evil. Even if you took evil out of the equation, it's like I lost Melissa. And that was the most incredibly difficult that I'm still processing. It's been 13 months now. And just an incredible trauma, difficult thing for me. And it has nothing to do with anybody else's evil. It's just, that's God. That's nature. That's how things work. Everything lives and dies. And when self-aware entities die, they suffer. When entropy gets involved, they suffer. And this is a part of our incarnation as human beings in this particular dream, in this simulation. And this is what we have to deal with. This is the problem of light and dark, good and evil, or what we call the zero and the one in Shadow Tech. And how we philosophically tried to deal with that conundrum. So this is always going to be there. In Buddhism, this is the truth of dukkha. You know, that suffering is. Let me pull this down now. So this is the truth of dukkha. Suffering is. And so as part of our incarnation lesson here is to tolerate, it's our duty on one hand to mitigate evil to the degree that we can. And it's also our responsibility to allow the world to be what it is. Because you have to. It can't be anything else anyway. It can't be this is what God created. And this is where, back to the Jungian system, you know, the Christian and monotheistic religious attitude, the dualistic monotheistic attitude, where you have God, a good entity that created the world, and then you have a shadow entity, the devil, or Ahura Mazda, or whatever version of it you have in your religion. You have the shadow entity, and then all the evil gets pinned on the shadow entity, but God is good. And then you have to make these kind of theological or philosophical jumps, right, to try to rationalize, why would this good God allow this devil or allow this evil to exist? And so then you have you have to do this projection thing, this scapegoating thing. And so from this higher perspective, God is all of it. God is all of it. God is love, and God is evil. And God is all of this, and God's playing this whole game. And like Bernardo Kastrup says, we're spies. We're spies for God. We're this whole simulation was created. He basically turned the switch on this thing, pulled the ripcord on it, got this thing started, and now he's in here looking at it from a trillion different perspectives and learning what is this thing. And then all of our consciousness, our progress that we make internally and externally, basically teaches the one being about itself and about its creation. And so evil and darkness and the shadow and all of that is to be mitigated. It is to be transcended, and in the highest way possible, but it is also to be accepted as part of the way that the system, yes, the law of polarity, exactly, that is built into the simulation. So good means nothing without bad evil. Yes, right, and that's our consciousness. Our consciousness works. It's very context dependent. We can't process anything without seeing something in context. So anyway, that's kind of some philosophy on that from from me, but this was also basically everything that I talk about is me and Melissa, and I always had to put Melissa back into it because none of this stuff, a lot of the stuff I kind of was working on before Melissa, but without Melissa, none of it would have been clarified. And so, yeah, so there we go. So that is, and if anybody came in a little bit late and you want to go back, I gave the whole 8 quadrants presentation, and I think it took me a total of, I looked up there, it was like 47 minutes. It's probably like 40 minutes of actual presentation. I think that's worth going back and looking at the whole thing so that you have a basic understanding of this system, and then you can decide if you want to actually start implementing it in your life, you want to start using it. Ask me questions, I'll answer questions about it, and recognize that this is my take, this is my synthesis, but it's based on existing, very high level existing philosophy that's already out there. This is a synthetic approach. It's a synthesis. And so this is basically Jungian psychology and integral theory with some minor additions to it, and just a kind of a 21st century perspective. And so it's very, very grounded, and it's been worked out. This has been worked out for, the Jungian material's been being worked out for 100 years, and the Wilber material is, people can find it if they even resonate with his, Wilber's material is all about mapping the development of human consciousness in all kinds of ways, whether it's your psychological development, whether it's your physical development of the human being. It's all consciousness. It's the development of consciousness, and then specifically humans, society, culture, all of that, and seeing it in a multi-perspectival map. Ken's very sort of spiritual, so that fits with me and Melissa, and so some people are not so spiritual, and they're not, so interested in all of that, and so maybe, and basically a lot of people are also just not as intellectual, as they're not really interested in stuff that's that intellectual. But there are some things in there that are extremely well worked out. I think the stages, the spiral dynamics / integral stages of like we were talking about here, first tier, second tier stages. Second tier is not well known. It's not proven out. Probably the very beginning of second tier, like I was talking about earlier, that I think is obvious. And especially if you're at that level yourself, you naturally think that way. You're like, oh yeah, this explains me. And and then the lower tiers, that's pretty darn worked out. So, and then the 4 quadrants. Those 2 things are extremely worked out, and nobody's disputing any of that stuff. And the people who are disputing Jungian psychology, their personality type is just not oriented that way. They're introverted, or they're just not oriented. They're extroverted, or they're just not internally oriented, and so it just doesn't resonate with them. It's just not an area that they go into, and so they can't validate it. But I think for anybody that's on the esoteric or inner development path, this is just like, it's like not having Jungian psychology as a toolkit for you is just like, what are you doing? So, I know a lot of people got into Eastern practices in the 60s. And then I didn't start in the 60s. Yogananda came over here in the 20s or something. And so it's been coming over for 150, up to 150 years. The Eastern spirituality has been coming to the West. But the Jungian system comes out of the West. And it is the Western esoteric tradition. It's the Western yoga. And so for Western people who are interested in psychospiritual development, to not use the Jungian system, at least to some degree, it's just like, well, Why wouldn't you? So anyway, that's kind of me just saying that the 8 quadrants that I'm putting out now is I think very well grounded, and it's just up to people if it resonates with them, and if it's very kind of there's a strong ethical component to it too, where it's like, this is our duty. This is what we have to do. We have to clean ourselves up. We have to heal ourselves, clean ourselves up, and develop ourselves. And we because look at all these what Robert Moore would call monster boys. All these highly grandiose little children in adult bodies that are running our world. And a society that had any inkling of what proper psychospiritual development was would never let these people get into power. The tests that you would have to take and pass to get into government would not be just, how much money can you raise and how many votes can you get. It would be much more mature than that. And so there's an ethical component to this that's saying, come on, get it together. Those of us who are oriented in this way, who are naturally introspective, and who naturally feel a drive to evolve ourselves, to heal, to evolve, to develop, and when we get older, to actually be real elders. Like Michael Meade talks about olders versus elders. Most old people in our society are olders. They're not elders, right? They're not keepers of wisdom, right? And so we've raised up all these people just to be, we use them up and toss them away. So ancient people did not do that. The young people looked to the grandparents as their heroes, as their models. And so this is we have to go back in this direction. We have to turn the boat back around. And like I was talking in another talk about the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis is the profane world. It's materialism and just the world, just the material world. And so we're going light speed on the horizontal. More and more technology, more and more stuff, and then we're barely getting off the ground into the vertical. Our spirituality is really junk. Now, I mainly focus on the West, and so our spirituality in the West, our mainstream spirituality is Christianity. And as a second tier thinker, I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong, bad, or evil or anything about Christianity. The evil that people put onto Christianity is carried by all groups in all times and all places. It's humans. It's humans that are not channeling their grandiosity, not channeling their libido, and dumping it onto the world or shoving it into the shadow. And Christianity is the operating system that the Western world has used to evolve through the stages for 2,000 years. And it is a way to connect us back to the transcendent, back to the sacred, connect us with our energies, our psychospiritual energies, give us a mythic worldview that we can use to understand our predicament. Even if we look at it now from the modern or postmodern lens and we look at it and say that looks like fantasy, it's very helpful to orient the mind of a little cell in the body politic that is trying to figure out what the hell it's supposed to do here and what is this whole world about. Where did I come from? What is this about? What am I supposed to be doing here? And then it has the absolute rules, the Ten Commandments stuff, all the stuff that comes from the Old Testament. It's got all that, the stuff where, the strict stuff. Because people, especially young men, there has to be boundaries. You cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this. You cannot abuse your energy in these ways. If you do that, you ruin society. And so then there has to be some kind of the person naturally says, well, so what? What if I do? It feels good to do these things. So there has to be some kind of a belief that says, well, if you do these bad things, if you ruin society, then something bad's going to happen to you. And so, that's what parents do. They say to the child, you do this bad thing, something bad, you're going to get punished. And that makes sense for a 4-year-old that cannot control themselves without that. And so religion does that for people, for immature people. And all people are immature. And so religion does that, and it gives you a whole toolkit. It gives you your whole operating system that you need. That's context dependent. It's environmentally and culturally, socially dependent on that particular culture, that particular society, at that particular time and place, and it makes sense for in that timeline. And it's great, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. And if you in 2026 can connect with a 1800-year-old, whatever it is, 1900-year-old religion and spiritual sensibility, and you can really get what that's all about, and you can find Jesus right in your heart chakra, and you can use that system to stay balanced in this mortal world, then good for you. Great. That's really good. You found something that you can resonate with, and that works really good. That's great. If that feels good for you, yeah, it's first tier, but that's fine. That works for you. But unfortunately, a lot of people in our time just can't. And they're even going to church and they're trying, and it's still not clicking for them. And they may or may not even really know that it's not really clicking for them. But you just look at their lifestyle. Just wearing a cross and going to church on Sundays, is not being a Christian. And there are some real Christians out there. And when you meet those people, those are real Christians. And there's some shadow stuff. Definitely. There's definitely some shadow stuff. The whole thing about the Christians feeling sorry for you that you didn't get baptized or you didn't get saved, and you're not going to go to heaven. you're going to burn in hell because you didn't do their ritual. Is just that part is ridiculous at this stage. That's out of control. At this point, that's got to go. It's like we look at the Muslims and stuff and all the stuff they say over there, and we're like, that religion that's a prehistoric religion. What the hell? Well, there's a lot of stuff in Christianity that's same level, and there's plenty of other stuff that the Catholics have, the Protestants have, whatever. So, but I don't have a fundamental problem with it, and if that works for people, then that's great. But for the people that's not working for, the people that are finding out that that's not really clicking for them, the Jungian system is amazing. And because it doesn't throw away Christianity, it just gives you an operating system update on it. It just puts it through a psychological lens. It puts it into second tier for you. That's what it does. And then you can update it even more into the 21st century, kind of like what I'm doing and what some others are doing. And then You've got a whole, it's alchemical. It's alchemical. So it's instead of projecting these energies and these images and these archetypes out into a mythic framework, and a ritualistic and mythic framework, you pull them back into yourself. So you recognize that what Jesus is representing is bang right here, right? You recognize what the Holy Spirit is representing, what the Father God is representing, what the Mother Goddess is representing. You find that out there, it's in the religion, and then you bring it back into you. That's your anima and animus. That's your mother and father complex. That's your need to project, your object relations theory going on, right? And so it brings it back, and then it says, okay, now I can work with it on myself. I can actually take these images, take these patterns, take these understandings that are in religion, they're in all spirituality, and then I can pull them back into myself. I can have a map, a system of how they're operating in myself, and then I can start actively working with those like a shaman does. I can start being my own shaman. I can be the shaman and the patient, an alchemist. I can be the alchemist and I can be the experiment. I can be what's watching and what's being watched, what's doing the process and what's being processed. And then I can use Christianity if I want to. I can use indigenous shamanism if I want to. I can use the Eastern, I can use the Western, whatever it is, however it resonates with me. And then I can use these patterns, these motifs, these rituals on myself, and I can have my own personal religion, my own personal alchemical spirituality that is made by me for me. It's not a collectivist system. I don't have to click into somebody else's collectivist vision for what spirituality is supposed to be, what spiritual life is supposed to be. Right? And in the Jungian system, or in all alchemy, you recognize that what the religions have is archetypal, so it's in the collective psyche. So you're going to be using the same parts that they're using, but you just have the right to organize those things in the way that works for you. You're using the same tools, you're using the same pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, but you're just putting the puzzle together in a way that forms a picture that's perfectly beautiful to you. Now, if you like the mainstream picture that's on the box of the religion puzzle that everybody else is using, great. That works for you. A lot of people are like that. Most people are like that. They like what everybody else likes. They just want to take something off the shelf and use it, and that'll be fine for them. But for the people that doesn't work for, they need to put together their own work of art. They need to make their own psychospiritual life art. And those are the alchemists. Those are the people that look at Carl Jung, they look at integral theory, they look at whatever kind of yoga, they look at all these things, and they start building their own system of psychospiritual connection, rooting, connection to the sacred, and in a worldview and a viewpoint that actually sacralizes their life, sacralizes the world. Back to Mircea Eliade, sacralizing the world. Homo religiosus. Profane man versus homo religiosus. The person who sees everything as sacred. And so that's the alchemist. That's what we're doing. So this is for alchemists. Now, thank you guys for chatting in the chat, and if you have any more comments or you want to teach me something, go ahead and do that. And let's see where we are on time right here, 8:25. So we have a little more ways to go. So I gave you the Solutio 8 quads presentation, and I gave you the alchemy as a spiritual way of life presentation, and talked a little bit about the Jungian system and stuff like I always do. And then we've got, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about relational alchemy, because in the upper left-hand quadrant is the psyche quadrant. And so this is where we're doing our shadow work. This is where we're doing our inner work, our inner process, right? This is where we're, like I was talking about before, you're digging up your shadow material, but you're also doing this in the context of your relationship. This isn't something you're just doing by yourself. You can do this by yourself. You have to do this by yourself. You're always going to be doing this by yourself. But when you're in a relationship, your spouse, your partner, ultimately should be part of the process. They should be in the alchemical laboratory with you, right? Because all your junk is spilling out onto them, and all their junk is spilling out onto you. And then when you want to process that, when you want to look at that and say, what just happened there? And what is this, this ugly aspect of you or of me? Or what triggered me from what you said or did? Or, these dreams that I've been having that are kind of embarrassing, that involve the other person, I should probably inform them of that so they know what's going on in my psyche, right? So this is where the relationship is an extension of the alchemical vessel. And this is the next level of this. As if this wasn't uncommon and deep enough as it is, then you go into the relational alchemy, and where you and your partner are actively involved in understanding yourselves. Your partner's learning Jungian psychology. Your partner's learning internal family systems. You're doing IFS on your partner, with your partner, right? You're analyzing your shadow material through Robert Moore's system, and you're talking it out. Like Melissa and I, we would go, let's see, when will we always just talked constantly, but I'd say that our real deepest talks were a few times a week. We would go on nature walks because we were in the California Bay Area, and so there was amazing nature spots everywhere. My God, Texas nature spots? Ugh, just piss poor compared to California Bay Area or Northern California in general. Oh my God, you got the Pacific Ocean, you got the redwood forest, you got the mountains. It's just, and there's so many state and federal parks, and they're just amazing. And so you have so much connection to nature. Yeah, the busy matrix world is going on, but that stuff has been preserved. So you can just, you're always pretty close to some amazing nature spots. And so we would go. We had some local places that were only a few minutes away, no more than 15 minutes away. We had Mount Wanda, and we had Hidden Lakes Park, and we had Briones, and we had like those three places that were right next to us that were within 15 minutes of our place. One place was like 5, 6, 7 minutes away. And then within half an hour, Mount Diablo is right there. Coincidentally, right? We're doing all this shadow work in Devil's Valley, in the valley of Mount Diablo. And we could go out, an hour away. There's the ocean out there, and there's a local bay, and it's just nature everywhere. So these sacred spots. So we were going multiple times a week, and we would just go for these walks, these long walks. And when Melissa was working more often, we would go mainly. She would be working usually like Sunday through Wednesday. So it was mainly like Thursday through Saturday we're doing those walks, but every day of those days we're doing them. So like 3 times a week we're out walking in nature, and then every night at dinner, while she's making dinner, some nights I leave her alone, and some nights we have a really good conversation for like an hour. So just multiple hours a week, we're just crunching down, what's coming up for us. And what's coming up for us, and what are we figuring out? What are we discovered? Because we're both doing our own research at the same time. We're both doing our own realizations. We're both introspective. So we're figuring out stuff, and we're, talking to each other about it, and the synchronicities that we're having, the dreams that we're having, or, running these theories off of each other. So we're just constantly doing this. And then we're getting into fights, we're getting into conflicts, we're getting into misunderstandings, or somebody's junk is slipping, And so then that's got to be worked with. The pain body, right? The pain body's doing its thing. It's cycling. And it's either knocking you into aggression, or it's knocking you into depression, or it's one person's victimizing the other person overtly or covertly. And that's got to be pulled out and looked at and talked about and worked through. And so that's going on. The relationship alchemy is a lot more exciting, I'd say, than just the personal shadow work and all of that. That's more, there's more energy in this because it's 2 people. So that's kind of how it goes when you're doing it with your partner. And you're having synchronicities with them, and, just whatever you're doing for art. I mean, we were professional artists, and so we're constantly making art and music. And but anyone, on this path can do some kind of art. You're making poetry, or you're drawing, or you're creating something. And when you want to, you can take your internal material, your dream material, or your realizations, and then you can use that as subject matter for your art, right? And so your poetry, your paintings, your drawings, even if you're weaving blankets, right? The design that you're doing there, that's some kind of psycho-spiritual motif that you're ritualizing and putting into that piece of art, or your music that you're writing, whatever it is. So that's how you're doing it when you're doing it in the relationship. You're talking about your animus integration. You're talking about that, and your projection of your complexes and all this stuff. This is all in Jungian psychology, and this is the stuff. This is the stuff of the work. Okay, let me see what you guys have been saying over here. Maybe you'll create your own mystery school where your adepts work on group projects. Yes, if you would like to join my mystery school, then I welcome you into that. And I think this kind of is already a mystery school, except for, I don't know if it doesn't have to be hidden. One of the big reasons why that stuff was hidden before is because the Catholic Church would knock you out if they found you were doing that. And then you had the Rosicrucians, you have the Masons and all that. And they are, because they're naturally secret, or secret societies, and then those are kind of like breeding grounds for other, parasitic societies start inside of those societies. And so that's not so good. You want fresh air and transparency and all that. So I don't think I would start something that's, first of all, I don't have enough people right now to do something like that. It's hard to find people that are at the cusp of this and wanting to go into this. And there's plenty of people that want to do some kind of esoteric thing. They want to do some kinds of rituals, and they want to be a part of a group and have a certain degree and certain symbols that are associated with that degree, and have certain reading material and all of that, and feel that they're part of something important and something that's cool and special. There's a lot of people that want that. But what I'm talking about is that's not really what it's really about. Having a group is great. Relationships, absolutely. Community, absolutely. Working with a group, sharing your material with other people, absolutely. Have to have people, have to have groups, have to have relationships and all of that. But I don't know if I would... I have actually seen how that I could have actually different kinds of levels of practices. Of course, all based on everything me and Melissa kind of figured out, because we kind of consider that to be the original download, the original gnosis, the original seed, what was in Shadow Tech, and then what kind of got developed after that. So I can see how some of that is. I kind of have already seen how there's like a couple levels to this. Like even what I presented today with the 8 quadrants was a certain level of this. And it's just the superficial level, and anybody can use that. Everybody can just take that picture, take that model, and just start going, okay, well, where am I at over here? 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 And just start with your own creativity, your own intuition. Just start going in there and working on it, working on all those quadrants yourself. And you don't need a deeper thing. And so that's just the first level of it. But then, yes, you can go much deeper into that. You can really get into details, and then people can really talk about their practices and what their results are, and share notes with each other and all of that. And that's like the second level of it, where you actually have a group of people that are really kind of honing in on it, and they're taking the system seriously. So I can see doing that. I would like to do that actually, but and I feel almost like I feel very, very duty bound to Melissa's mission, and how that all of this came through her, that she's the mother of all of this. And what her real psychospiritual mission was. And I feel like it's my duty to continue that on, and not to just, join some other group or just, whatever. This is a specific thing that came to us, came through her. And I feel like I have to honor that. It can be expanded and all that from there. It doesn't, it's not going to just stay at that level. Like I've already expanded it a little bit. But I have a sense of duty, and I have to, integrity and sticking to what the original mission and the original work was. And so for that, in that way, I can see creating kind of a group and all of that. But I would need more people to be interested in something like that, and to it has to be people who basically say, I've been looking for this. I've been looking for this. I've been looking for this community. I've been looking for this. They may not even know what second tier is. A lot of people probably who are in this community are naturally attracted to Carl Jung and the Jungian way. Carl Jung himself is very difficult to read. So a lot of people actually try to read Carl Jung. They go, oh yeah, I've seen a lot of quotes by this guy, and this looks really good. And and then they go into it and they're like, what in the world is this? And it's hard to read through it. It's hard to figure out what it is, because it's like, I don't know, 200 IQ stuff, and like throwing around multiple languages and all this. And so but you can just get into the Jungians, all the different Jungians. And this is why I always point people to Robert Johnson, because he's super deep, but and super in line with Jung's whole system. But he writes very simply, and so it's very easy to get into Jungian psychology through Robert Johnson. And then there's plenty of other people, and Robert Moore is very exciting, and there's plenty of others. And so naturally, I think people who are on this path, the alchemical path is what we've been calling it, are people who are naturally attracted to Carl Jung and his whole thing, whether they're familiar with it or not. And then also people who naturally would resonate with the whole second tier mindset, which Jungian psychology is second tier, basically. But people, once they hear what that is, would go, oh yeah, okay, this clicks for me. That's how Melissa was. Melissa didn't know anything about integral theory when we started going out. And I started explaining it to her and stuff, and then she just clicked with it immediately. She started using the term holon and really understanding it, and she didn't really remember all the different color codes and all that kind of stuff, but she looked at it and she was like, oh yeah, I got that one, I can see that one, I can see that one. And she's like, okay, and she just naturally said, oh yeah. She called us holon jumpers. She said, you got to become a holon jumper. That's what a second tier person is. It's a holon jumper. I forgot about that term until just now. I'll write that down again. I mean, it always comes back to me, but holon jumper. That's what we are. That's what second tier people are. And, oh, you just read Owning Your Own Shadow? That's great. So I haven't read Owning Your Own Shadow all the way through in 20 years. I just got another copy of it, and just like a week ago, a used copy on eBay. What did you think about Fringe Minority Report? What did you think about that book? How did that click with you? Because that is what I recommend to people as their first Jungian book. And then his other ones too. He and She are kind of about the masculine and feminine psychology. And they're small books. They're pretty. You really loved it? Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Robert Johnson's great, and you can just kind of like pick up each of those books. Like what was the Fisher King and the Headless Maiden? Handless Maiden, excuse me. The Fisher King and the Handless Maiden, and those two myths, and these are myths, archetypal myths that answer psychological questions, that show us context for our own development and why we are the way we are, and what these myths actually mean. And so, and Robert Johnson, I think I went to his bibliography, and he's got like 20 something books, about 20, I think. And that's the whole thing. And you can just, pick out of there wherever you want to go, whichever part of Jungian psychology you want to work with, and grab that book. And now you have an overview, you have an introduction to that. And now you can go into Carl Jung, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what he's talking about. Or you can go into the deeper Jungians, like Edward Whitmont, or James Hillman, or I just got into James Hillman recently, actually. I love James Hillman. He's, I used to think he was an angry liberal, which he is, kind of. But he's just such a good orator, such a good storyteller, such a good orator, and I think he's very easy to listen to. His writing is more difficult, but his speaking is very, very easy to listen to. And so, and then another great thing is all these Jungians, a lot of them have been uploaded to YouTube. Edward Edinger, he's very deep, but and even listening to him is hard. Oh, you've lived, Mary. You've lived. I hope you don't care if I'm using your real name on in the public here, but I think that's kind of I was kind of going back and forth between, people's privacy and stuff like that. But once I find out what your name is, I just want to call everybody by their real name. That's just, community transparency stuff. But you've lived handless maiden experience, still working on it. Yes. Right. Yeah. And a woman's connection to work and to the earth, to children, and everything that comes out of the embodied experience in the world, and how that if you cut off that, then and she just lives in her head, then she goes crazy. And so and Melissa, she was living the Persephone myth. Persephone, that was, and I mean, I tell you. Oh, I'm getting some messages here. Sorry if I wasn't. Let's see who's talking to me here. Oh, hi Theo, how are you? Yeah, I just sorry I didn't get to your. If you hi there. Hi, how are you doing? What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. So, Theo, did you want to say something, or did you want to call? Who's this? Let's see here. That's funny. You're in Thailand, right? But it says your phone number's from Bulgaria. You must be using like a calling card or something like that. But Persephone, sorry. Persephone is she's taking you down into the underworld, and she's taking you into ecstasy. So this is an interesting thing. Some women that are in the underworld a lot might forget that the other side of Persephone is ecstasy. And Melissa was truly living it. We call it the O1 experience, and we had a band called the O1 experience. Time in the underworld followed by time above in the sun, in true ecstasy and in your true in love, in your creativity, in the light. And then Hades drags you back down again. And then you're out of there and you're back up. And whether it's a man doing it to you, or it's circumstances doing it to you, or it's an illness doing it to you, you're back down, and then you're back up again, and then you're back down, and you're back up. And that was Melissa's life. And it started to smooth out as she got older. And she spent in the last, I'd say 22 years of her life. Well, she was ill for 2 years before she passed, but the 20 years before that were pretty stable. The relationship she had before me was not nearly as healthy, and it stagnated pretty, after several years, and it was not alchemical, but it was a relationship with a man who was in her band, and she always did that with men. She got with men that she would make music with, and when at least it was creative, and so they were making music, they're playing out, and so she's getting, because she's a performance artist, and so she's getting all of this time on stage and creating music and recording and all this kind of stuff, and so that was very productive for her and stable, and he wasn't abusive, and so 10 years of stability and all of that. And then she got with me right after that. She didn't even have a break, really. She left that relationship because it was just too stagnant, and the guy was getting too alcoholic. And then we had this mystic alchemical, just creative explosion thing that was both musical and psychospiritual. And that was just like the pinnacle of a relationship for both of us. Clearly the best, most ecstatic and mind-blowing relationship that either of us had ever had. But then Hades grabbed her again. And we thought that he was going to let go. We thought that she was going to have more time. We thought that that was going to be her, one of her last big underworld periods. But it was her last period, in this incarnation. And that was incredibly shocking, as many of you know, incredibly shocking. And man, not expected, incredibly shocking. And I learned how to grieve, and I'm still like every day still figuring it out. Yes, okay. Let's talk. Okay, let's talk for, we can, we'll have a quick call. We'll talk for like 20 minutes, and then we'll go for the evening. And so let me call you right now. So turn down your stereo or pause your video, and then let me turn up the volume for you here. Theo, are you there?
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing, buddy? How are you doing?
Oh yeah, doing good. Yeah.
Great.
I didn't catch your entire presentation on the 4 quadrants. I came in a bit late.
Yeah, you can watch it later.
But I will. Yeah. But I got the gist of it, and man, amazing work. Like, you're really simplifying the profound with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's really good to see it just laid out like this, like just like a map, almost like a very simple map, but also very profound if you really apply all the knowledge.
Right.
Right. So
take it as deep as you want to. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna work with that for sure. So big props for coming up with it, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. It took me. I found out about the Ken Wilber 4 quadrant thing 15 years ago. But I just was always kind of turning it over in my head and going, try to use it as a tool and putting different things in it and going, okay, well then if that is that, then what if this? And I just never fully really felt comfortable with it. It was like, I had to evolve, I guess, to really get it. And then I finally felt comfortable with it enough to where I could put the shadow into it. I had already done all the, books on the shadow and everything. I was like, okay, I know what the shadow is. I know how that's working. And I realized that the shadow was the personal side of evil. I knew that. And I was like, okay, let me put the shadow in there. And then I saw how, that means that disease in the body is the shadow side of the body, and that the deep state, all the corruption and all the red pill stuff, that's the shadow side of the society, and then the culture. And it made it clear as to what it all was. So I put that in the last book, and no one ever corrected me or anything or said, no, that's not it. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that is how it is. And so then I was like, okay, so that worked. And now let me go, so if that's the problem, okay, well, what's the solution? And so I kind of had been crunching that for a while. And it's been very difficult to take all this work that we did and all these different concepts and everything, and then teach it or share it in a way that doesn't just confuse people or just look like it's so much material. And so it was a way to simplify it. It doesn't include everything, but to simplify the most important things, and then to give you a solution. And so now I feel like with this model, I feel like I can actually do workshops. I can actually teach it. I can share it with people. I can be like, look, here it is. It's simplified. Here it is. And just pick it up and use it. And so this is it's a big step for me, even though nothing is really new. It's just now been put into a framework that's easier to understand. So yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
I'll put it on the Shadow Tech Alchemy website so people can. I might change the language on it slightly or something. We'll see. But soon I'll put it on there so people can just download it and put it on your phone and just keep looking at it,
No, I love it. Yeah, Homo Balantia. I love it.
Yeah, that was Melissa's term. Yeah, balance mankind. So what's been going on since the last time we talked, Theo? What's been coming up for you?
Oh man, yeah, I've been working, internally, as always, but I'm kind of feel like I'm leveling up. I'm kind of passing some thresholds, right? Like internally, like kind of in terms of realizations and higher understandings. I feel like I've been on this journey for a long time, but it's amazing how much internal healing I had to do. I mean, like I would not dive into any of my personal, struggles in my life that I had to go through, and I had some, really incredible things that I had to go through. But and maybe one day we can talk about.
Yeah, we talked about some of it last time, but yeah.
There's some details that I didn't share, but anyway, so. Yeah, so I just incredible how much healing I still have to do, and I suppose like you mentioned, the shadow work never really ends. Like it's not even a couple lifetimes might not be enough to clean up all the shadows of all the parents and ancestors and all that, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a truly a collective effort that will have to continue for generations to come for us to collectively level up, and like in terms of, let's say, like this tier system, like go from 1% in the tier 2 to like 10% to tier 2. It's going to take an incredible amount of work of people doing like what you are doing and I'm doing collectively, right, at the same time, and operating on it.
Yeah, it seems like people seems like there's an amount of this higher level consciousness that's coming in naturally, just with the generations, because our ancestors lived in more difficult environments, and so their mindsets were different. Every generation has its own operating system. And so it's easier for younger people to actually go into second tier, and it's actually easier for them to process their emotions. I've noticed that the baby boomers and the silent generation, the older folks that are still around today, my parents, they have a much harder time processing their emotions, and especially men, and it's just and whereas younger men now have an easier time doing that, and so our psychology is different, and so I feel like we're moving into a time when more people are able to do the kind of work that will facilitate a more balanced society, and I don't have any kind of utopian visions of all of this, because I think that this is. Look at it kind of on a much longer scale than this, of thousands of years, but definitely I see it as like a tradition, or a cultural tradition, what would be considered a religion, but is not in this new framework. We don't really need it to be in a religion anymore. Individuation, people who are individuating, what I'm calling alchemists, we don't really need to be in a religion, so to speak, for the reasons I explained earlier. But this is like a cultural. I'm trying to think of what term it is, but it's it's a cultural meme. It's a cultural movement. It's a movement of people, and it can be from all over the world, that recognize some version of what we're talking about here, which is what Jung was talking about. Recognize the validity of this, and how working on yourself and processing this stuff heals yourself, and then your children are born or raised more healthy. And then you have the ability, when you mature this way, you have the ability, when you do get into positions of influence, you have the ability to contain that energy and not be abusive, and not let it leak out. And like so many powerful people do, they can't contain their libido, they can't contain their power drive. And so it just leaks out, like the Epstein files and everything that we're finding out now. So it just leaks out all over the place. And so this is a movement for people that want to develop into elders, develop into mature people that can, be nurturers, compassionate nurturers for the world, and who are not leaking their garbage all over the place and being hypocrites. And so this is kind of a tradition for that. And if we can get that going, and it's me and you, we're not creating this movement. That's the thing about movements. They create us. This movement it's like a wave, and it's coming through the collective unconscious, and it's pushing people like us along. So we're waking up to something that God and nature already wants. This awareness practice, this awareness tradition that we're talking about here, is something that is being it's being given to us. We're following it. We're not making it, and we're just taking it from God and putting it into the world. So, but we have to have language that identifies ourselves, and so we can find each other, and so that we can talk about this and share it. There has to be a shared cultural language, and that's kind of part of what thankfully we have the Jungian system. We don't have to talk in ancient medieval alchemical terms, and we don't have to use the Eastern stuff. We Westerners, we don't have to necessarily rely on Eastern ideas that aren't part of our culture. With the Jungian system, we take our Judeo-Christian heritage, and we just install an operating system update on it, and boom, it turns into an alchemical tradition. So yeah. So back to you though, Theo. So I really appreciate you being interested in this. You can't help it. This is just what comes through you. You're just interested. This is your natural inclination to say, I need to work on myself. I need to research this kind of stuff, and I need to connect with other people who are doing this. You're doing that. You're calling into this show, and you're taking the initiative, and you're getting started, I would say, at the right time. According to your age, you're getting started at the exact right time to do this. And so you're an alchemist, and you're one of the ones that's going to keep this going and get this moving. And so I want to give praise to you for doing that, and I want to encourage you. And there's not a whole lot of us around, but there are others, and so just keep your eye out for them and go find them and bring them to you and form community with them, and then we all kind of keep doing that, and then we got something going here. What else you got?
Yeah, sorry, you got cut off at the end there, but I think we're good now.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah. Sorry, just like a few seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for what you just said. I'm not even gonna take it personally, because I feel like we need more people. It's not about me. It's just like you said. It's like the nature doing his thing, working through us, God, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
The spirit of it, right? Like, right. It's working through us, and so it's like we don't have a choice. I feel like you're doing it for your own higher calling. I'm doing it for my own higher calling. So
exactly the right words. We don't have a choice. That's what an alchemist says.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of Krishnamurti. I don't know how you feel about him, but
yeah, of course, he's great. Of course, yeah. He's speaking his own language through that lens, that time, and everything. But yeah, he's absolutely he's one of our ancestors.
Yes. He's and I mean, like, he's not as deep into all this alchemical stuff, of course, but he's very good at kind of like breaking you out of the matrix, right? Like in terms of psychologically, like. Yeah, just kind of bringing you to the present moment and getting you to think internally, right? What is thought? What is time? What is love? What is this? What is that?
Question everything that you're told. Yes, a lot of questioning of your own beliefs and societal beliefs. He's one of the first. One of my early spiritual books that I started reading. Yeah, Krishnamurti, Think on These Things. Think on These Things, it was called, and Melissa actually started with that. She got that book early on too. She started with Yogananda, the autobiography of a yogi, who was that Indian guru who came to the United States in the 1920s, and his whole lineage and all of that. So she started with him. And that was how kind of her. She always kind of stayed with that. She always had a connection to she naturally liked Krishnamurti. She had a connection. She felt connected to the Indian esoteric tradition for sure. Yeah, that's great. Ram Dass is another one from the 1960s, American. His book, Be There Now. I mean, this is the 1960s is when a lot of this stuff really came to the top. And right. And then we had sort of an offshoot of that called the human potential movement, where people had 10 years before, like I think the Esalen Institute in California was formed Esalen was formed in the early 60s, actually. Yeah, so people were taking LSD and other psychedelics, and they were breaking out of the matrix, and they were saying, what should we do with ourselves? And maybe we have a lot more potential than what we're told. And maybe there's a lot of things that we can do if we just concentrate on our internal state and work on ourselves internally. Maybe we have powers and potentials that the average person never reaches. And so then there were all kinds of people who are in that human potential movement in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. And then I think it kind of fell apart because I think actually one of the big reasons why it fell apart is because that movement couldn't really embrace the shadow. That's what my theory is that they ran up against a wall. There was only so much you can do. Like, if your whole idea is how you could become more peaceful, you could become more compassionate, you could have a higher consciousness, you could have a better community, better marriages, and all of that. And you're listening to that stuff, and everybody's theorizing and saying, "Oh, if I meditate, then I'll be cleaner and I'll be better." And you're doing that. You're still fighting with your wife, and you're still fighting with your boss at work, or you're still neurotic or whatever, or compulsive or control freaking on your children, and whatever it is that you're doing. And you're like, well, what about all these practices that we were doing in the 60s and 70s? It didn't work. And so it took a couple decades for people to figure out that there was a limit to all of the psychology and the neuro-linguistic programming or the Gestalt therapy or all the things that they were doing in the 60s and 70s. They ran into the shadow. they ran into to Carl Jung's shadow that, wait a minute, you have all this lower nature stuff, and you have complexes that are formed out of your trauma, and you have to go dig into that ugly stuff. And people didn't want to do that. And the free love movement of the 60s was really, it was in the lover archetype. And it really was resisting the shadow. The shadow and the lover don't really mix. And so, so they kind of, and then the gurus of the human potential movement, they just didn't want to go there. It just wasn't in their consciousness. And so I think that whole thing kind of fell down. And then also you had all the materialism of the 1980s and 90s, and the Western world, was, economically doing very well and all of that. And so, people just got very distracted and all that. And the human potential movement and all the transcendental meditation and all the stuff from the 60s and 70s kind of went down and broke up. And now that things are falling apart real bad in the West, now people are starting to go, oh yeah, what was Carl Jung saying? Oh yeah, what is this shadow work thing? So it's like slowly starting to change direction now. Yeah.
Well, obviously I was not even close to being in the 60s, but I have, learned some stuff about what happened back then, and
Krishnamurti, a lot of his stuff is from the 60s. 50s and
so
60s.
I've listened to some of the great minds from those era. So Krishnamurti, Adam Watts, Ram Dass, all of them.
Alan Watts, yes, Ram Dass. Yeah, okay, you know all that. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and of course the psychedelic movement. I've been curious about that. Learned some stuff about that too.
And there's a second wave of the psychedelic movement, as you know, going on right now, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's what I was about to say. Is I think that, like you said, this human potential movement, I think it had its first wave back then in the 60s, 70s,
right?
And I think maybe now it's really coming back to a new wave. We are like, we are headlining in a way this new wave.
Yeah,
we were the very, very first ones. Hopefully it really will become somewhat of a big wave that will reach the mainstream or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
at least touch it. But the thing about the psychedelics is that I think the psychedelics are not everybody can do the psychedelics. People who are really traumatized or kind of already have difficulties holding on to reality probably shouldn't be playing around with that. But
no,
for most people though, especially if you're in a community that's knows what they're doing, then it's very, very healthy and very good. And it'll even put you, the ayahuasca or the ibogaine or whatever will put you in touch with your shadow, and that's really great. And so you get that experience. But the actual lifestyle, and especially in relationships, of doing shadow work and living this as a lifestyle is a certain lifestyle, and you kind of have to form your whole life around this. And you kind of can't have a really busy, distracted life that's very exoteric. I mean, you can do stuff in the world. You can have a business and a job and a family. You can do all that, but you have to have a lot of kind of sacred time and introspective time. And so it's a quieter, more slowed down lifestyle. And and then you have to have courage and you have to have strength to go into this uglier stuff, because it's hard to go on an ayahuasca trip that lasts several hours, 6-8 hours or whatever, and then you're throwing up and all that kind of stuff. But it's one thing. It's like you get hit once and you're like, okay. But shadow work as a lifestyle is you're always like taking a little bit all the time. And maybe not every day, but you're constantly kind of being confronted with your own junk. And then you have to go, oh yeah, the way I spoke to that person, or I was projecting onto that other person, I was projecting onto that group, or or why is my attitude such shit today? Or why am I being aggressive today? And so you're always kind of like analyzing yourself and then bringing it back to yourself, and then you have to kind of sit there and figure it out. And so that's a very introspective, ongoing life practice that isn't just about taking something on, one day and then having an experience and then going back to normal again. And so this is a lot harder, actually, than the psychedelic experience is kind of like an initiation, and it awakens you to your psyche and to the mystery of the psyche. But then the actual work is your lifetime. So the psychedelic people have to realize this is just the initiation into the psyche, but this isn't what it's all about.
Yeah, no. Well, really quick, I gotta say, because the internal work, I think it's not just about how you behave, like ongoing, like in your life now. Of course, you have to observe yourself and do the shadow work like that. I think that more initially, when you're just starting to realize, oh shit, maybe I'm being a bit of an ass, to people around me.
Right.
I think that's the initial stages.
Right.
For me, I'm like far beyond that. I think I'm treating everyone pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I can always improve.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, it's more like just cleaning what I'm carrying with me. Just all the shadows of the past is, I think, what's holding me back more than anything. So for me, it's just to kind of, by now it's quite spontaneous, I don't have to like sit down and meditate or anything. I just I live my life, as as slow as you said, and kind of chill as possible. And so those things just kind of bubble up spontaneously. I kind of call it random access memory.
Yes.
Just I will have some shadow from the past just bubble up to my consciousness,
right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that happened a couple of years ago. It's like, oh shit, like, I'm just processing it. Many times I just left it out actually, but
right. So you pull up that memory, that thing just comes up, and that breakup, or that getting fired from a job, or getting into a fight with somebody, or it's getting sick, or whatever it is that was disturbing that happened, it comes up in your memory, and then you kind of push yourself into, you realize immediately, oh, there's some negative emotions associated with that memory. And so you go into it. You go, okay, well, let's recall the memory. Let's pull it up. Let's go through the mental images again. Let's play the movie again. Let's play it back. Let's feel the feelings that are associated with that movie scene. And let's allow that to come up. Let's allow the judgments and the thoughts and everything that are associated with it to come up. Let's ponder them, and let's have a higher level view of those old thoughts and feelings. And let's ask ourselves, why do we feel or think these things about that situation? And you just allow it to kind of come up into the mind, and just let it sit there, and just be with it, and let everything that's disturbing about it, or maybe somebody, you drove somebody away from you, and you feel that you might have hurt them, and you wonder if they're still out there feeling hurt from what you did or something. You just allow that feeling of grief that you might have hurt somebody, or the reverse, to just be in your mind, and you just be with it, and just get it up there and just be with it, and allow it to do what it's doing. And then every time it comes back, just be with it again, and just keep being with it. And every time you are with that memory, you're doing therapy on yourself. And every time you're with that memory, the therapist part of you helps you to find a new perspective on what happened and why. And allows you to try to make a slightly different story around what happened. So when the story about what happened can change, when it can be updated to something that's more holistic and something that's less rooted in the past, then it starts to lose its energy. And then slowly but surely those situations, those memories start to lose their charge. And then now you've dissipated that, and shadow material has been integrated.
Yeah. So
you're doing that.
Yeah. Of course I am, but I'm trying to kind of how to explain how. Well, you put it really well. Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, when those memories come up, like you say, they have a kind of a charge to them.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's why they were buried in the first place, is because the charge was too much for you to handle, so you just bury them, right? That's how they kind of became a sort of this shadow or trauma or whatever you want to term it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I am in a place now where I am able to heal those things, so they come back up. I'm allowing them to come up, and now my job is to not put them back down, right? It's so, like you said, you work with them, feel them, and heal them, and then I think also maybe go to that objective observer and kind of realize. Well, that's I think what often I try to do is try to realize, that Theo, when he was 19 years old, and this other person that I had this conflict with, whoever this person was, I was trying to see, okay, we are just two human beings going through what we're going through, and so I can see how it makes sense that this conflict happened and why it happened and how it had to happen, and I just forgive myself and forgive the other person, and how to say, trust myself that I've grown out of that behavior or shadow or whatever that got me into that, and I pray that the other person is doing well and that they're in their good path in life and all that. So just try to alchemize it.
That's it.
Positify it also, to say the word positify.
Yeah, that's exactly you just explained it totally perfectly. That's exactly what it is. That's how it's done. And realize that that other person that you had that conflict with, people, even when one person is the aggressive one, the other person unconsciously found that other person to play that game with. So both people are the aggressor and the victim are both involved in the drama, and they both have a complex. They have a part that's getting fed off of that drama. They both have a pattern, an intergenerational pattern that's running. And if the victim, if you weren't the aggressor, I'm just guessing if you were or not, but if you're not the aggressor, somebody else will be the aggressor. And if they're not the victim, somebody else will be the victim. So it's a pattern that plays out. It's an archetypal pattern that exists in the collective unconscious. And then we inherit the pattern, and then we find other people to play the game with. And so all you were doing when you were 19 is being unconscious. Both of the people were just being unconscious and playing out an unconscious archetypal pattern that's in the collective unconscious of humanity. And it's part of our soul lesson, or however you want to put it, but it's part of our process of evolving. And then if you go into the integral stages and that kind of stuff, you can see that there's a certain consciousness that's related to different levels of conflict. And so both people are at that level of consciousness, and they need to play these games in order to learn so that they can get to the next level. So everything that happened was just two barely conscious people just doing what barely conscious people do all over the world all the time. And you're just being human. And you're just being a 19-year-old. Because when I was 19, I was doing the same stuff, because we all were when we were 19. That's what we're doing. So everyone's got those kind of things in the back. So you just got to kind of pull that stuff up and do exactly what you're doing to it, to integrate it and let it be part of your. So now your story is, I had this conflict and it sucked, but now you have a new thing to add to the story. I had this conflict, it sucked, and then later I evolved enough to where I could integrate its meaning into my consciousness and evolve from that. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool, like, moral of the story. Most people walk around with these old conflicts and these old story pieces in their psyches, and there's no resolution to them. They're just sitting there in the shadow. Whereas now you can unresolved. And so you can resolve it, and you can add another piece of script to it. The moral of the story was, and you can add that to the whole thing. And so, yeah, there was still an original trauma, but then there was a healing part too. And so it's actually complete. It's complete now. It's supposed to be that way. There was supposed to be a trauma. There's the shadow side, the destructive side is supposed to be on this planet. It's supposed to be in human consciousness. But what we want to do is just put the other side in there, the healing part on top of it, and now it's perfect.
Yeah, I think that makes it so, obvious for people listening. I think now, like, if they're still struggling to understand, like, what we're talking about, even, like, I think now you really can see, like, imagine just everyone around you, all those people with, like, dozens and dozens of unresolved conflicts going on in their psyche, and they're just, projecting all that shit, to everyone around them, right? So that's so obvious now to really kind of get a grasp of what all this shadow stuff is about.
And I'm so glad you have the ability, you have the intellect, you are a natural alchemist, and this is your thing, this is your vocation. And I mean, I don't know if this is the only thing you're going to do in your life. You do other things, but this is a big thing, and you are a natural. And so so you're definitely going to be a teacher of this. I can see that. So my only advice to you is just always stay a student at the same time that you're a teacher, and then it'll all work out.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so easy to devolve back into the matrix bullshit stuff, because I mean that's all over the place. That's what's that's the whole tsunami and energetic tsunami that is in humanity now is all this garbage. And so to stay above that, to stay afloat amidst all those storms is indeed takes a lot of energy, a lot of work to maintain the ship. Continue with this metaphor, but
maybe moving to Thailand where it's affordable, where you can live affordably. Maybe that's a smart thing to do.
Get away from it all, get out of the cities, and go to some places where you can be close to nature, as you mentioned, in California. I'm here. I live in a village here, so I'm close to the jungle. So it's good for me to have some peace in nature, and just some good air, and not many noises and all this stuff. I also have a musical ears like you, so
great.
It's sometimes the noises can get to me a little bit, so I have to kind of find a little place where I can just be back in the silence of nature in the jungle, and just soak all that in, and it's just very blissful.
What about the mosquitoes?
That can be a problem, but you can you find your way to deal with it, I suppose, one way or another, even if it's just to let it go, to just accept it, just another mosquito bite or whatever is what it is, annoying, but it's I'll take all the annoyances of that I have to deal with here, over fucking what I had to deal with in Israel with rockets falling down. I think some mosquitoes and some whatever is
this is
way better.
We should sometime in a future call. We should block out a little bit of time, like half hour or something, to talk about the whole Israel Middle East conflict stuff, because I have to tell you, man, it's every day for my entire life, it's some bullshit about some trauma drama with Israel and the Middle East. And I'm like, I'm tired of like thinking that, okay, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. It's like, just get along, just figure it out. It's like, we're tired of it, right? You know, I mean, don't you feel that way?
Absolutely, man. I don't take sides. Anyway, like, we're alchemists, we can't take any sides.
Yeah,
so
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I've been feeling this way even before I realized all those things. I just always had this, like you said, I'm a natural, so I always felt deep inside that this is all wrong.
Yeah.
So that's why, for as long as I was, how to say, maybe not remember, not as I can remember myself, but let's say as long as I got conscious, I saw those things and I knew I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't want to be part of the mandatory military in Israel. That's how
I see.
Yeah. Big conflicts in my life to deal with that part of it, right? So I had some extreme struggles I had to go through because of all of those things, because of war, because of mandatory military, and me being a pacifist, sort of.
So good for you. Okay.
So it's definitely been a big journey for me to get to where I am today. I think it's a miracle I'm still alive and well, and I'm doing this work. And for me, it's like it's a no-brainer for me to go in the direction of becoming a teacher like you. You're a big inspiration, and
I'm just starting out myself. I kind of just got out of the laboratory, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing here?
It's amazing, man. Yeah, so big props to you, and I see you, man. So just so you know, because sometimes you see those people on YouTube like doing those things, and you just have starstruck eyes, and you're just think, oh, they're just something special, and I used to have that a little bit, and no, it's like, no, he's just another human being just like me. He had to go through what he had to go through, and that's what made him do it. So I'm kind of realizing I had to go through what I had to go through, so I can now maybe alchemize it in the way that is the most beneficial to myself and all, and that's becoming a teacher of it, just like you are doing. So
I can hear it in you. Yeah. No, I can really hear this.
Do it too.
No, you're really on the path, and you're a natural, and so. Look, I'm 56 now, and I was like, I felt like when I was in my 40s, I was, because I had a whole life as a musician and an audio engineer, and so my kind of teaching side was on teaching people how to record albums. And so it kind of like practiced on that. And then I got involved in this just through I don't know, I just synchronistically went into this other area where I was after the financial crisis in 2008, there was all these people in foreclosure, and they found out that the banks were committing fraud, and so they were all trying to find all the fraud in their mortgages, in their paperwork, and then try to sue the banks. And so I got involved in that movement, and I studied law for several years, and I started helping people put together legal briefs and helping their lawyers and all this. And so my mind went into the law mode, and then I started coaching people on foreclosure related real estate procedure. And so I was in that was like my teaching mode. And then I tried to get into, I was, reading the Jungian stuff, and I had some grasp of it, and I was doing the shadow work on myself, and I had enough of a grasp of it to teach stuff at the most basic level. So I tried to teach it to my people who were in foreclosure, because really their life problems were not really just, they were losing their house. They had much deeper problems. So I tried to bring it into them, but they didn't really want to hear it. That wasn't where they were at in their consciousness. So it didn't really work there. And then I met Melissa, and then we had this whole explosion, and then we wrote the book. And so it seemed like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's time to teach what we wrote in the book. But then we would try to share it with people, and it just went over everybody's heads. And we even did one workshop for a Jungian group, like a 4-week workshop for them, and it was going over their heads. And we're like, man, we couldn't really find people to teach. And so we were like, okay, well then that just means that we're not ready yet. That just means we need to keep working on ourselves, keep learning, keep studying, keep advancing, and when it's the right time, it'll work. And so that we just went back to just, doing it amongst ourselves, and we put this kind of stuff into our music. And so we created music that had this stuff in the lyrics and in the video and all that. And so that's kind of the way we were putting it out there. And then Melissa got sick and frickin' passed away. And it's like, what the hell was that? That was just this giant shock. And then, and so then now I'm on the other side of that, and I'm going, okay, here I am now with all this stuff. And I guess I'm gonna have to start sharing it again. I guess it's time to try that again. And so now I'm over here doing it, and I feel like it's ready now. Even though there's only a handful of people watching it, right? It's still so esoteric or above where most people are that it's a small audience. But at least for me, internally, I feel like I'm ready for this mode now. So think about that. So most people who are, people are teaching stuff at all kinds of ages. But for me, it's like I'm really only getting into it at my age, like right now, age 56. It's like I feel like now it's like my teaching job showed up. And so there's no way to know what age you're going to be or when this is going to work out or when it's going to be ready. And then just because it's ready doesn't mean the world is ready for your teaching. So it's just like, but you have to just do what your soul is telling you to do, and then just let it be what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, what else can we do, right? I mean, we just doing, like you mentioned, like what our soul is telling us to do, and we just hope for the best, I suppose.
I'm happy with, I've got you on here now, and my friend Stephanie is here, and Mary's on here, and I don't know who else is on here or who will watch it later. Oh, there's at least one other person who is or was on here, and Fringe Minority Report. I don't know that person's name yet. And so how many is that? That's 4 of us. There's 4 of us who are actually in the chat talking besides me. But we're in the same community here. Fringe Minority is reading Owning Your Own Shadow, not just talking about it, really doing the research, doing the work. You are doing that. Mary's doing that. She's a second-tier person. Stephanie is all over this stuff. So to me, that's a great privilege to have 4 other people who can actually understand me and actually can use this information and put it in their life. That's fantastic. So I'm happy with 4 people, because it's not 4 people just looking at you on YouTube and hitting like and you getting a view. It's 4 people who are in this community who are really doing this. Yeah. And that's phenomenal. So imagine 100. 100 would be, in a normal world, 100 people watching your video would be nothing in YouTube world. But 100 actual practicing alchemists on a YouTube channel, that's huge. It's as big as 40,000 people watching something.
Oh yeah. I mean, I want to say something kind of maybe romantically hopeful that that people like us who are on those higher levels of consciousness, we are pulling people in our direction more powerfully than all the noise and garbage that is so dominant in the world. I mean, that stuff is gonna pull you in, but only to a small degree as compared to a great mind and an elder, as you mentioned before, how he's gonna pull you, and it's just night and day. There's no comparison really. So it's really about us being sort of I suppose like a maidens for this stuff, mavens, I suppose we can say, like we are just pulling people into it, just energetically, and also just with our physical presence, whether it's on YouTube or in real life, of course. Maybe the results will not be immediate, but we just have to keep at it. We just have to keep our minds, aligned to the highest, to the divine, and whatever that means for each and every one of us. It means to keep reading and listening to the great minds, the ancestors, the elders that came before us. Of course, the Jungs, the Robert Moore. I just started listening to him because of you. So
great.
Getting
He's
into
fantastic.
that king magician.
That's right. That's for you. That's perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm getting into that. So thank you for suggesting that.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to keep our minds with that, and not push ourselves too much that we get too sick and tired of it, because that can be possible. You can can end up burning yourself out in terms of that. So you have to be careful not to do that. Still give yourself room to play and all that.
That's the overactive magician in Robert Moore's system. You take the magician and the warrior and you put those together. You put that the warrior has focus and the ability to accomplish things and accomplish goals. And you put that with the magician, the problem solver, the one that's curious and wants to find out things. You just have somebody that's just so much energy into research and knowledge and all of this, and then they can't even live their full life because they're just so stuck in research and knowledge and knowing and mind stuff. And so you have to that's what his whole system is about balancing these archetypes. We have to let go of it a little bit and not put it into the Western mindset of a goal. I mean, the goal of Homo Bilancia or whatever, I guess it's not really the way Westerners think about a goal. They think about careers and they think about progress and goals and achieving goals. And this is more about process. This is more just about a way of being. It's like back to spirituality. Nobody, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, it's not about a goal. It's about a way of being. And so this alchemy way is a way of being. It's not really a goal. I mean, the goal is individuation. The goal is healing yourself, but it just goes on for your whole life. It's just life practice. And so we have to let go a little bit and just incorporate it into our lives. It's a perspective that we hold, and it's a yoga, and we live this way, and we don't have to heal tomorrow, and we don't have to save the world. The world is the way the world is the way it's supposed to be, and so we can't understand it because it's just so much bigger than us. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned how also before in the podcast I got you say that everything is already perfect as it is. God is both the dark and the light. That's a big profound realization, I think, for people to have. That's like I don't think I heard almost anyone say it like this. So
that's in Jungian psychology. It's Carl Jung says that, but it's back there. It's back there. It's not on the top because it's so offensive to religious people.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Yeah. So even some of the great minds, I still really respect and listen to almost daily. Like let's say Michael Tsarian. He knows all about the Jung and all that, and he knows way more about way other things. But his main rhetoric, especially what I'm hearing like in regards to psychology these days, is he's still caught up a lot about the Dragon Mother stuff. I don't know if you know a lot about it, but like the dark feminine, and I think there's something there. But
there is.
I feel like there's definitely something there. But I think he's kind of presenting.
He's got a negative mother complex, we would call it.
That's entirely possible. So
yeah, he's over fixating on that. Yes, and he's also. I always look. I have his book. I have his Atlantis book from like 2006 or something like that. I have his Tarot Scopes DVD. I was looking at him in 2006, 2007. So I've always liked Michael Tsarion. I wrote a song in my band about one of his subjects, and so I always liked him and everything. And he's great, but he is psychological. He's very deep, and he's I don't know quite if he's second tier really, and he's got a lot of aggression that needs to be used. And I have it too. We all have it. But he really is in that what I call the red-pilled culture warrior. And he's still very much like fighting the system and all of that. And so I'm hoping that
Mark
he can.
Passio also, right?
Oh, Mark. Yeah, Passio also really is. This is in the Robert Moore will tell you that in the second half of life, after midlife, men have their warrior energy in the early half of life usually, and then not always but usually, and then when they get into the second half of life, their lover energy is supposed to turn on, and some men, it just turns on and they just get really soft. They can't accomplish anything. They just want to, they want to get a young girlfriend. They want to move to Thailand, and they want to, whatever it is, lay on the beach or whatever. And they don't want to do anything, and they don't feel that they have any duties to the world. And Robert Moore says you need to get control of that, because you're an elder now, and the world needs your wisdom, and so you have to stay involved in the world. But you do need to but your lover energy needs to be integrated into your personality, and you don't want to avoid it. It just makes you want to still have warrior energy so that you can accomplish things and you can focus. But you need to have the lover in there so that you don't burn yourself out, because you can't have a whole life of being a hardcore warrior. That will burn out your psyche. And a lot of activists, they get into their 60s and they're just pissed off, they're burnt out, they're bitter because the world didn't change no matter what they did. And so you don't want to do that. You want to allow the lover to turn on in your second half of life. When you start to get in your 40s, you want the lover to start to turn on. And some people, they have the lover on earlier, but a lot of people don't. And Michael Tsarion, needs more lover. And Mark Passio needs more lover. But there's so much trauma in there and old junk that's down there in any of these activists that they got to do the shadow work. And it's sometimes the shadow work, to do the shadow work and go on the shadow work path, means that you need to leave society for a while. You need to turn off your YouTube channel. You need to close down your business. You need to go into a whole other direction in life and stuff. And a lot of people are afraid to do that. And so they just kind of stay in their old world, and they really can't get into this next mode of life that they need to get into. And this is a big problem for people.
Yeah, especially when they have like an online persona that, that they have been maintaining, and they don't want to seem like they changed or whatever, or not know what. No,
yeah,
alienate their fans or whatever.
Yeah, it's hard. This is why it's good to have like a map of this. This is why the Robert Moore system is really cool, is because it gives you a map of this, and you go, oh yeah, right, this is how it's working, and then you can start to balance these things in your life. Okay, Theo, I think I haven't eaten dinner yet, and so I think we'll probably What? So it's morning time for you, right?
Yeah.
You naturally get up early?
Yeah. I get up with the sunrise and the roosters.
Oh yeah, I heard the roosters out there. That's so great. Okay, so that's good. So this time works for you. All right. You don't know any other alchemists in Thailand?
No, not yet. Hopefully I will get to know. And
there are some.
Thank you very much. Sorry?
There are some out there somewhere.
I'm sure. Yeah. So I'm always happy to meet. So hopefully I will magnetize some of those. People. And so. Yeah, so thank you so much, Colin, for again doing the show as always, and for having me. I just want to say, again, you're doing incredible work that is, very, very high level, and it's I think even those great teachers like Passio and Tessarion could, listen to your show and maybe get something out
I
of
like
it.
those. I like those guys, and I want to say that Passio and Tessarion, what they're doing, is this is the second tier understanding. What they're doing is important and necessary. What they're doing is necessary. It's not even just allowable. It's necessary.
They're kind of a bridge, I would say,
they're a bridge.
From the lower to the higher, and then That's
right. They are. They're a bridge. You can go from, red pill awakening and going, what the fuck is this? And then you can go right through Michael Tessarion or Mark Passio, but when you especially when you get to Tessarion, and then you can bridge over to Carl Jung from there, or to whatever he's really into, astrology and stuff, or esoteric sciences, and you can just go from there. So he's a great bridge, and so I don't want to think that there's anything that's out of place with these guys, but it's just when you're an alchemist and your higher calling is this inner work thing, then you kind of have to cross that bridge and what Stephanie always talks about is the scorpion effect. I never heard this, but till she told me about it. The scorpion effect is when you're in a group, you're in a culture, you're in a mindset, and you might have your friends. You might be in the Mark Passio group or the Tessarion group or the Alex Jones group or whatever group. You're in that group, or Scientology or Integral, whatever. You're into that group and you're really into it, and then you wake up and you say, you know what? I've transcended this. I don't need this anymore. And then you leave the group, and then you start attacking the group that you were just in. And you start telling other people, oh yeah, they're stupid, they're primitive, I left that group, blah, blah, blah. That's the scorpion effect. You use your tail to wrap around and sting the person who helped you, the group that you used as a bridge. And so we don't want to...
That's not a good idea.
No, we don't want to do that. These people help, they helped us, and so they're serving a necessary function, and so and they have their proper place, and so we have to appreciate them. And then, but if we as individuals transcend that mentality for whatever reason, then we just say thank you so much, because we're going to be the same thing. Because if we're teachers for people are going to come to us, and then we're going to be the bridge, because we're not the end of the road either.
No.
So yeah.
Yeah, no. It's,
burning bridges. Yeah, it's like burning the bridge you just walked across. Right, exactly.
Yeah, and the key is what you said before, Colin, is you have to realize everything is perfect as it is. We are all just outgrowth of this planet, and we are... Everyone is fulfilling their duty in whatever environment and psychological sphere they're in, and they're just doing their best, and we just have to accept everyone, kind of, like I said, with a radical empathy or radical understanding. And I think that's the most beautiful way to approach this work. So just Be grateful to everyone.
If you see some evil happening in front of you, or if God makes you puts you in a position where you need to save somebody or to stop some evil or something like that, or some corruption or something like that, you have to do it. And that's that one story in the Bhagavad Gita, and you have to be in the world, and you have worldly responsibilities. But at the same time, you have to recognize that it is all a dream. It is all a simulation. It is all in the mind of God. And it's all perfect, and it's supposed to be this way. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders.
Boom. All right.
By the way,
go have your dinner, Colin.
Thank you. Last thing I wanted to say to you and anybody else that's listens is that if you guys come up with thoughts during the week and you want me to talk about those things next week, just send me an email or send me a text on one of my phones or Facebook or however you want to contact me, or comment on the YouTube video, because I'll see those. And then I'll bring it up next week and we'll talk about it, and that'll be good to be able to work with the things that you guys want to work with.
Yeah. Okay. Tokay Gecko is also doing the work.
Who?
I don't know if you heard it, but the Tokay Gecko, it's
a gecko in the background. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. It's called the Tokay Gecko. He's doing this. Okay.
That's great.
Very cute.
It really is.
All right.
Okay, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that was great. Okay. Thank you, guys. And if anybody knows any other alchemists, bring them over here. And like I said, send me your comments, your questions, whatever it is during the week if you want to. And then we'll keep going. And if anybody missed the 8 quadrant model presentation, go back and listen to it again. I might do another version of it. It's a little bit cleaner maybe, that I just put up as its own separate video, and so you can always have that. And I'll put a link to the picture so you can download the picture onto your phone or whatever, so you can kind of zoom into it and kind of just remind yourself of what's in there. And I'm going to sign off and thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week, next Tuesday. Have a great week.